She sat demurely on the podium erected for them, feeling rather like a specimen in a museum placed there for gawping purposes. To her right, up the hill, was the brand new school, and according to Maya McGrath, who'd walked up from the bus stop with them, it was built with every convenience in mind. It was going to be a wonderful place to work. She couldn't wait to see it for herself. There were apparently 5 large classrooms and 4 smaller ones. She was to have an office on the 2nd floor, overlooking the school playground on one side and facing down the hill to the town on the other. And there was a large hall with a stage, a large playground, and beyond it, even a playing field. Reverend Bill, as she'd always called her uncle, now Bishop of Brisbane, had warned her that Jumaaroo was nothing like Cork, and he wasn't wrong. It was vast, hot and dusty, and so far she'd seen so many things she'd never before encountered. She couldn't wait to write home and tell them all about it. She could just imagine her father's sardonic smile at her descriptions of her new world. The town consisted of one street, about 1/4 of a mile long. The shops and businesses traded under a canopy that stretched out over a raised wooden boardwalk footpath, which shielded shoppers from the relentless tropical sun and kept their feet dry from the flooding rain during the wet season. There was a hotel and a grocer's, a shoemaker and a draper's, and a large hardware shop that had everything from a needle to an anchor, as the proprietor had informed them when Mr. McGrath took them on a tour of the town before the ceremony began. Beside her, Sister Mary seemed enraptured with the band. Anything musical delighted her, and Claire knew she couldn't wait to get her instruments unpacked and her music classes set up. Claire didn't get to choose the sisters who accompanied her on this mission, but if she'd had a choice, she would have chosen Mary. Mary was a sweet girl from Skibbereen in West Cork, who missed her mother desperately when she first came to the Ursuline convent in Cork City, but she'd soon settled and realised her vocation was real. Claire and Mary had taught together at St. Catherine's. Mary was slight and short, with the sweetest smile and a tinkling laugh. A natural musician, she loved children and music in equal measure, and the grating noise of early days in violin lessons, or the endless plonk, plonk, plonk of a piano, didn't seem to bother her in the slightest, though Claire admitted she herself often had to suppress a wince. Claire wished she could say the same of Sister Gerard, who bristled at the end of the row. The fact that she was so overweight didn't help her in coping with the heat. She was as sour as Mary was sweet. The Reverend Mother had confided to Claire that the order had proposed the taciturn nun for the move to Australia because she'd slapped the wrong child with the leather rather too severely, drawing the little girl's blood, and the parents were threatening all sorts. Claire had never met her before that day on the quayside, but throughout the journey she'd been most disagreeable. Gerard, now in her 50s, was too old for the missions, but the child she attacked had powerful parents, and so she had to be removed. She'd complained ceaselessly since the day they left Cove. It was too hot, she was seasick, the food was horrible, nothing was right. Claire knew she would be the most difficult to manage. Already she was refusing to accept that Claire was the school principal, as appointed by her uncle, the Archbishop, and was making executive decisions without consulting anyone. Sister Helen, who sat beside Gerard, was a mystery. She had come from a convent in East Cork and seemed serene, but she said very little and watched everything. She had pale skin and thoughtful hazel eyes, and there was a serenity to her, a kind of stillness that should be restful but wasn't for some reason. She was devout, as they all were, and she prayed constantly the entire journey. Sister Teresita was full of fun. She was from near Claire's home of Macroom, but about 7 miles outside the town, and her accent was so thick it was hard to imagine how the Australian children would have the faintest idea what she was saying. Claire could understand her. She used to hear her father talking to people with that accent at the fair in Macroom every month. But even to the townspeople they were hard to understand. So far, Teresita's hilarity had been met with blank stares. Claire felt so sorry for her. She was so kind-hearted, but it was going to be a struggle. One of many.